Hello and welcome to the Sao Paulo Grand Prix, Brazilian Grand Prix, whatever you want to call it. And well, I like this track. We all love this track. Let's admit it. We have seen a lot of great battles over the years. Well, in esports, in real life as well, it's beautiful to watch. So, ahead of this weekend's Brazilian Grand Prix, Sao Paulo Grand Prix, whatever you want to call it, we have a track guide and setup for the track in F123. Now, if you want to skip to the track guide, you can do it by going to the timestamps. Just scroll down and find the timestamps in the description, or you can just pull up the video and you can find it. And also, if you want to skip to the setup, it's always in the description. You can always take it from there. And you may also join my Discord to get these setups updated for free from time to time. There's also some variations of the setup that I come up with, the others come up with as well in the server. So there's always a lot of options for you to try out. Now, without wasting any more time, let's get into the setup real quickly. And I gotta go to bed real quick as well. So, first of all, there's a lot of medium to slow speed corners around here in Brazil. And you're gonna be needing a lot of top speed as well for the pit straight. And basically the center S's after that, and then there's another straight. So those two straights are going to be your main overtaking opportunities here. However, you're still going to be needing quite a bit of downforce in the middle sector. If you don't have downforce, well, you're not going to have race pace, so you're going to be needing again some balance here. So I'm going for sort of mid to high kind of downforce around here. 28 rear wing feels just nice for me compared to the 31 that was on the world record setup. So it's just a bit lower here to help you regenerate more battery and also survive the straights much easily. So you easily gain a 10th or 2 on the straight. In hot lap mode during qualifying, you don't really notice the loss of performance with higher wings, but in the race you definitely notice it a lot more. So this is going to be crucial for you. Front wing, you can keep it at around plus 10 or plus 9 or plus 11 compared to the rear wing. If you need more pointiness in the car, you can always go up. If you want it to be less pointy, the car feels a bit unstable, you can try reducing the front wing. The usual changes, these are the basic changes that you can make. Now let's move on to transmission. 55 on throttle, really good to get the car rotated under acceleration around here. And in the race, you can always use 60%. That's going to look after your tires a little bit more, provided you're also gentle with your inputs. With your throttle input, you don't just, wheel spin everywhere, and that's going to be important. You can also use 50 in qualifying, but be careful while accelerating on the curbs with 50% on throttle. It tends to get a little slippery, so you want it to be 55 or 60 coming out of the center S's here, because it's going to be slippery on the curbs. Speaking of that, we'll talk about the how to take some of these curbs here around Brazil, which are kind of tricky, but really nice if you can nail it. Off throttle, let's go to it. So 53% keeps it really stable under braking, under trail braking as well, which you're going to be needing a lot around here. You can run 50 as well. I've made it work with that. However, in the long run with tire wear, the car becomes super unstable. In qualifying, this can actually work. So in the race, 53, 54, maybe 52, whichever you want to use. That's going to help you to not lock up the rear. Even when you run quite a high brake bias, sometimes you can lock up the rear because it's too loose. So you need to up the off throttle to make the car a bit more balanced during this braking coasting phases. Suspension geometry, minimum camber, minimum toe. No like I say always, it's the best way to set up a car, the easiest way to set up a car actually. If you find some combination that works for you, go for it, and feel free to share your findings. Suspension, now 41 on the front suspension to keep the car very planted and stable in those corners, especially when you have these quick direction changes here and the car is going almost full throttle coming out of the corners. You're going to be needing a car that is pretty planted. 41 on the front helps you to achieve that. Now rear suspension, I've gone somewhat stiff, mid stiff ish level. 15 on the rear compared to like 7 or 8 on the world record setup. Now, there's a good reason, because I felt that the car with all the previous changes with the aero and all, so it became a little bit understeery in some slower corners. So this helps to create a bit more rotation in those slower, tighter corners. And to compensate for that, I've reduced the ride height as well, because now the suspension is stiffer. You can reduce the ride height by one click just to make sure the car is not sitting too high. The rear of a car, if it's too high, you're going to be losing a lot of momentum in the corners. The car is going to feel very loose. So front anti-roll bars, now I've gone with 12 here just because it felt pretty good. Somewhere around 10, 11, 12, 13 was really the sweet spot for me this time. It may change from time to time, different day, different driving. However, so you may want to adjust this, depending on how comfortable you feel driving. The higher you go, the more understeer it generates when you go on power. The lower you go, of course, it's going to generate a lot more rotation under acceleration, and you will notice that the car is maybe slightly more pointy on entry, but you don't really feel too much, especially when you have very high aero around any circuit. So 12 just fine for me. Leave the rear at 1. It keeps the car quite stable in high speed, in low speed. It just helps the car to be more planted. Right height, I've reduced it from 33 down to 32 on the front, just to give the car a bit more pointiness, because I've lowered the downforce on the car. So this helps to recover some of that performance in the corners, helps to turn the car. On the rear, I've reduced it as well because I've gone stiffer on the rear suspension. So it's kind of a balancing game. If you go low on the rear suspension, then you may have to increase your ride height so that you don't bottom out on the car. Alright, now let's move on to brakes. 100% brake pressure, 57 or 56 brake bias, 55 even in some corners is usable. Heavy braking like turn 1, and then the last corner I'll definitely recommend going up to 57 or 56, whichever is the higher one you feel. It's good so that you don't lock up the rears. It's better to lock up the fronts in some sense if it ever happens, so that you still are on track. It's easier to recover from an understeer than an oversteering under brakes. Now 55 or 54, you can use this in qualifying, especially in those middle sector corners, to get the car just a little bit more pointed into the corner. It helps to loosen up the car, turn it into the corner. But be careful of using any lower than 54 even in the race. It's a bit sketchy. You don't want to be going into those territories. Let's finish it up with the tire pressures. Tires do get pretty hot around here. It's a relatively short lap with a lot of energy going through the tires, with constant direction changes, acceleration. You're scrubbing the tires to turn it and all that. So you want to keep the tire pressures pretty low. Start with minimum tire pressures and then just go up a little bit if you need to generate a little bit more temperature to keep the tires in the ideal temperature range. So this was kind of suitable for me on all the 3 tire ranges, soft during qualifying, and then also if you soft or mediums in a sprint race, and then mediums and hard in a race stint. This felt pretty nice to use. And there you go, 38, 28 on the wings, 55, 53 on the transmission, minimum camber, minimum toe, 41, 15 on the suspension, 12, 1 on the anti-roll bars, and 32, 37 on the ride height. If you want to be safer, you can use 33, 38, it's a bit safer. But 32, 37 is going to give you a bit more performance, but you need to be a little bit more precise with your inputs. 155 or 56 or 57 brakes, and then minimum tire pressures to begin, and just maybe 3 clicks on the front will do just nice. And there you go, that is a setup for the Brazilian Grand Prix, Sao Paulo Grand Prix, whatever you want to call it. Beautiful track indeed, Interlagos over here. And yeah, if you're stuck around for quite a while now, you know that it's time for the track guide. So let's get into that and see how do we tackle the Interlagos around here. So while this thing is loading, as usual, you know that out of every corner you need to get the best exit. So we have, well, theoretical best of about another half a tenth there, here and there. Probably lost it on the last corner, as you saw. I'll show you a bit later. Now let's see the fastest lap here. So into turn 1. Now you want to stay on the right hand side on the run up to the line. If you're going for a qualifying run, you can just stay on like the normal racing line like I did. Go all the way to the right. This game, you don't want to be touching that green part of the circuit, that green AstroTurf, because there's a lot of marbles on there in qualifying and in the race, and there's also less grip there, so it's going to your car is going to be more prone to locking up if you touch those green parts. So just a little bit here, as you can see, into the braking zone, not even touching that that green part, still fully on the track though. So keep it fully on the track and then brake right after the 50-meter board here in qualifying. In the race, you can brake at the 50-meter or just slightly before that at the black box, whichever you prefer. There's a black box on the left hand side, as you can see. So brake in a straight line, and then you're going to be trail braking quite deep into the corner here. Quite early, you're going to be lifting off, not fully, but you're still probably on about 30-40% brakes, and you're going down and down the brakes as you turn into the corner more and more. So I prefer to avoid taking this curve because accelerating on it is quite tricky. So there's million different lines that you can take around here, as you can see. Not even bothering to look at the curve here. However, you want to stay as tight as you can to the white line, and that will help you to open up the exit here. So this left hander is quite important because it'll open up the right hander and then the run down to the next part of the straights after the center S's here. So I have a sort of a technique, or you can say mostly everyone kind of uses this. So briefly, you want to be going 100% throttle right as you straighten out the steering wheel here, 100% throttle here, and then you want to lift off a little bit, so you're about 70 to 80% here. So 100, 80, and then right as you hit the curb, that's where you go back to 100, and then let the car run wide on the exit. Use the entirety of the curb here this time on the exit. It's pretty grippy once your car is up to speed, so you can use it as much as you can. Now, to gain time in qualifying and even the race, do this. It's crazy. There's no losing speed from scrubbing in the game too much, so you want to stick as much to the left as possible. This will gain you quite a bit of time. You can actually gain up to half a tenth by staying tight left here, and all the way down the straight you'll gain up to half a tenth depending on how good your exit is. So half a tenth is still quite a bit of time here. You don't want to be leaking time. You probably could find a tenth or two just by staying on the right lines throughout this track. DRS wide open, and then let's run down to the end of sector 1. Just a slight note as well, I've intentionally taken the official weather timing of the day, which is the actual qualifying time that you'll be doing, will have shadows like this. If you take the midday, it's not going to have all these funky shadows around on the track. So it's a good way to practice as well. You want to practice qualifying, practice on the official qualifying time, so that you get used to the conditions here. Now, when there's no shadows around here, it's very easy to spot this exit road here just before the 100-meter board. And when the shadows are there, it's kind of hard to make it out. But once you get used to it, that's going to be a good braking marker here. Secondary braking marker is there is an ambulance on the right hand side, right at the grandstand there. So as that passes your peripheral vision, you brake at the 100-meter board or at that marker. Then down in 4th gear, throw the car into the corner here. Again, that's a repeating thing that you're going to be seeing. You want to be throwing it, and you don't want to take a lot of the curb. You just want to be probably half on it, because if you take any more than that, your floor is going to be on the curb, and that's where you will bottom out and you will understeer and oversteer. Everything bad happens around this time. So now you turn in and then start applying throttle as soon as you hit the corner here, and you're going to be accelerating quite hard as well. Not full 100% just yet, but as you are exiting the corner and open up the steering, as you can see this, you're probably 100% by now. And ride the curb on the exit, but not too much to the right, because again, as you can see, if you go a little bit more, then it's track limits, and you're also riding the curb, it's going to sometimes bottom out the car. Again, RNG works funnily in this game. Sometimes you get thrown off, sometimes you don't. Now back to the left hand side of the track to gain a few more thousands, a few more hundreds here actually. Stay tight here, you can easily gain almost a quarter of a tenth here just by staying tight to the left there. And then you want to be braking right at the 50-meter board. Now be careful when you're braking for this corner, or even just lifting off or downshifting. As you can see, this is just on the limit of touching the grass. If you touch the grass even a slight bit, your car is going to steer wide. You're not going to be here, you're going to be half a meter, 2 meters more to the left. and that's going to lose you 2-3 trends easily in this sector. So make sure you're not hitting the grass. You can be a bit safer by being a bit more to the right. Now I've done this 100 times or so, probably, I don't know, until today, Brazil. So I kind of get the line right here, and you want to make sure that you just tap on the brakes and downshift to 6, and then stay tight on the entry here. You don't want to mount the curb because that will offset the car. It's going to, you know, throw off the car wide and it's going to unsettle the car, but stay close to it. And as you hit it, full throttle once again, and then you're just about floating between 90, 80, 90, 100% throttle. Maybe on full higher downforce you can definitely go flat here in qualifying, but you know, on lower downforce you may have to feather the throttle and feather your steering so that you don't you know, spin out here. It's quite easy to spin out here in this high speed section, these double right-handers. Now let the car run right on the exit as well. We didn't really fully utilize the exit here, so we definitely could have gained maybe a bit more time on the entry into the next right-hander here by being a bit tighter to the left hand side. As you can see, you want to be a bit tighter, a bit more to the left. You want to open up as much as you can, so make sure you use the full track width there, and that's going to easily gain you some time around this track. And there's no real braking reference around here. For me, it's right after the Brazil GP black boards on the left hand side as they end, and then that blue Salesforce the board starts on the bottom. So right in between there, as that, you know, I pass that, or as the big Salesforce you know, board starts on the left hand side, that's where I start to brake in a straight line here. You want to brake 100% and then quickly down to about 30-40%. You're trailing into the corner, hug the inside here quite tightly. As you can see, we just run a little bit wide here, but as you can see, nothing too bad. You can let the car run wide on the exit as well, that's okay. So let's just take a look at it from the full view. As you can see, you know, this okay. You can let the car run wide around here, you know, because this next corner comes in real quick, and you want to just flick the car into the corner here and stay as tight as you can. Ideally, you don't want to take too much curb like I did. As you can see here, it did, you know, it felt like the car was trying to snap on me because, you know, I was a little bit on the grass here, but looks like I wasn't on the grass anyway. So back onto the TV port here. As you can see, stay tight and then start accelerating little by little. You want to be applying throttle throughout the cornering phase. You don't want to be coasting because you're going to lose time on the exit. Instead, you want to keep applying throttle and feather the throttle until you are able to go full throttle on the exit. By this time around here, you're already full throttle, and you can use the exit quite a bit if you want to, or you can prefer to, you know, avoid the exit. And then quickly bring the car over to the left hand side here, and you want to brake right after the curb starts here. So the curb on the right hand side, as you can see, that's where it starts. So as you just pass that, probably a split second after that, you just want to brake in a straight line, and then you don't really have to brake 100%. You can just hold the brakes about 50, 40%, 60%, and then trail down to 20-30% for the corner, and then crank the steering quite a lot to make sure the car is turning in at the corner here, and then let the car open up on the exit. Apply some throttle, make sure the car is constantly moving forward and you know, having some power delivered to it, so that you gain time on the exit. Even a little bit of throttle, the sooner you apply the throttle, the more momentum you're going to carry throughout all the corners around here. And on the exit, you want to avoid mounting the curve, as you can see, because that actually can you know, unbalance the car sometimes. So keep it straight on the exit. It's a bit shaky on this exit. No matter how much downforce you have, this exit is always going to be tricky, and you have to make sure that, you know, your steering is straight and you're ready to counter steer to the left if you need to, and you have to be going full throttle as soon as possible. And then stay tight to the left hand side. You can even take the curve like I did here. It's okay to take so. You can avoid it by just stay tight to the left hand side, and then let the car run right on the exit. Avoid that exit curb here. You can take this exit curb, the solid curb here, and then this grassy curb, avoid it because there's no grip there. If you put a wheel on that, you'll definitely lock up into the next braking zone. Now you can go up to 57 or 56 brake bias, whichever you prefer. You can even lower your brake bias if you want to aggressively turn the car into the corner here, on the last real corner here, Junsao. And the braking marker for this is right as the AWS board on the right hand side starts, or on the floor there's the green part of it starts. So whichever you prefer, you can use that, and brake in a straight line. And then we definitely missed the corner here just a little bit here, as you can see. We're not fully tight here, and then on the exit, that causes to run a little bit wide, so it compromised our exit. Probably half a 10 to 110 easily lost here, but you can always come back and improve on it. So as you can see, throw the car in and then straight on the power as soon as you can, and then bring the car back to the left hand side. This will definitely gain you a lot of time by staying tight on the exit here. Bring it to the left hand side and stick to the left like I did. You can mount the curve as well, but it doesn't really gain too much, maybe 1 or 2 more thousandths, but no more than that. And then stay tight again as well. DRS will be activated here. As you can see, under the shadows it's pretty difficult to spot, but again, with practice you can definitely memorize it with your muscle memory. Now DRS open, and then stay tight again to the left hand side. And there's the pit entry line here. You can usually cut that if you're not going to pit. And this white line here right in the middle of the car here, this is the track limit, so you don't want to be cutting that white line too early, but you have to be tight on the left hand side to gain time. In the race you'll probably be going somewhere in the middle, just to take the line of least resistance for the braking into turn 1. For qualifying, just stay as tight as you get to the left hand side in a straight line, and that is a lap around Interlagos. Hope you have a good one as well this time, and looking forward to the Brazilian Grand Prix this weekend. And leave a like as usual, subscribe, whatever you want to do. If you want to have ask some things, if you want to comment some things, whatever, comment is there for you. And make sure you share it as well. Let the world know about all the good setups that we have in this channel. So yeah, see you around next time, and take care everyone. Stay safe. Bye bye.